Hey, everybody, and welcome to our weekly career huddle. Man, it's been such a week this week. So much going on this week, but I'm excited to be able to connect with everybody and just say hello. So if you're here, wave at me if you can hear me, and just so I know everything's going okay. Hey, Lena, how are you doing today? Hey, Monica, how are you guys doing? So excited for this session. One of the things that we're going to do and share during this session, hey Jabber, is for anybody who wants to help us beta test our and for anybody who wants to help beta test our new community, we have like a right now super secret community that we haven't opened up yet to all Vyten members. We're getting some of the final kinks worked out. But if you're interested in beta testing that new community, shoot me a DM on this profile afterwards, and I'll get you the instructions on how you can join our new beta community. I'm going to throw a link. I'm going to pin a I'm going to pin a message with a link as well at the end of this session. But if you're interested in getting in, shoot me a DM and we'll get in. So today we're going to be doing a AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything. And we're basically talking about careers after college, how to figure out what the right career path is, how to apply your degree towards a specific career path. Or if you're later on in your career and you're looking right now at pivoting careers, we can talk about that as well. Hey, Carson,
Hey,
how's it going?
good.
So just saw a chat. Hey, Vincent, thanks for all of your mind-blowing content. Hey, that means the world to me. So I really, really appreciate it. So down below on Instagram, obviously everybody's watching this on Instagram right now. There's a few buttons that you see. There's a heart button, which I super appreciate every time somebody presses that, and I see like it just like goes up on the screen. But there's also a question mark button, and there's a paper airplane button. And so, if you know somebody that should join this session, if you know somebody that would find this stuff interesting or find this stuff helpful, see, I love that. Every time you see the heart go up at the bottom, um, hit that paper airplane button, and you can actually invite them to join this Instagram live. But today we're doing an AMA, which is an Ask Me Anything. It could be any question for me, any question for Carson, any question about careers, any question about um, jobs after college, could be related to marketing or HR or sales or operations or software engineering, UX, any area that you're interested about. I know there's a lot of folks who are interested in being data analysts as well. We've had quite a few Vyten members actually recently start new data analyst roles. So all of those are fair game. So hit that question mark button down below, and you can type in any question that you want, and we're going to go through and try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. So first question that I have for you, Carson, while everybody's typing their questions into the chat is, what are you seeing right now? So, you know, you graduated college recently, but not too long ago. Like, what are you seeing right now with folks who are a few years not behind is the wrong word, but will catch up to your phase of your
Mhm.
career in a few years from now. Like if you're a sophomore, if you're a junior, like what are the types of things that
Yeah.
people should be doing right now to get ahead?
I think right now, especially, it's like hard to compare my experiences because it's such a different time. But I have been seeing it's more difficult to be involved with things. And so I feel like a lot of people are having hard times being involved in whether that's clubs on campus, social organizations, in getting internships, getting jobs, and things like that. And so I think that is one of the largest struggles that I'm seeing from other people. And I think it's just kind of like for those like club leaders and any organization that provides that experience, I feel like it's also hard for them to figure out how do I make an experience that's good for my club members.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So I
We've
see two questions, or actually three questions in the chat down below. Hit that question mark button when you type in your question. That'll make sure we got three questions right away, and they all went off the screen already. So I'm going to scroll back down, but hit that question mark button and submit your questions through that question mark button. That'll make sure that we can go through all of the questions and we don't miss any in the chat. So the first question is, what's your background and how did you get involved with Vyten, Carson?
Yeah, so my background is in communication. So Vincent and I actually went to the same university and had the same major, and we connected during my undergrad because I had so many questions about, okay, how do I apply the things that I'm learning from this major into the real world? What industry should I go into? Because I was just so confused about everything. And so that's kind of how I first got in contact with Vincent, was like, are you taking any mentees? And then he was at the time. And so then we'd have calls every week, and he would mentor me through different options that I could do for my career and encourage me to explore a bunch of different career paths. And then I had other internships before in end of high school and throughout college that kind of let me see different fields that communications could go into. So like event planning, finance, and things like that. And so then that's kind of how I realized, okay, I like doing these certain things within these jobs. And so that kind of helped me shape, okay, I think I want to go into community marketing, but also be able to help as many people as possible. So that was kind of the draw to Vyten for me, was knowing that I could be part of an organization that does something greater for the greater good of the community.
Yeah, and I think the things for me on the opposite side of it, as I was meeting Carson, there were a couple things that really stood out. Really up-to-date LinkedIn profile. A lot of people start working on their LinkedIn profile way too late. If you don't have one, it's not too late for you right now. Like, you can make one today. You can start one today. But definitely have a complete LinkedIn profile and try to fill out as much as you can. And the other one is that some people wait all the way until their third year of college to really start looking at internships. And I think that's something that was way different for you, is that you had your first internship was actually in high school because you're an overachiever. But freshman year, sophomore year, folks who are building up, whether it's volunteer experience, student organization leadership experience, or internships, those are the people that really stand out when it comes to your third year and actually applying for internships in your third year. And so when you take a look at these super competitive internships that happen the summer after your junior year, traditionally, if you're applying for those and you don't have any work experience in the past, it ends up being pretty hard to be competitive there, because you're competing against people who might have one or two internships under their belt after their freshman and their sophomore year. With that being said, like, that would be your ideal scenario, is to start those internships early. But if you haven't, start right now. And if you haven't, like, you can create those experiences for yourself right now as well. You know, you can start a club right now. You can start a Shopify store. You can start blogging. You can start a YouTube channel. There's so many different things that you can do and you can control if you haven't had those internships in the past, so that you still have those types of experiences to be able to talk about. See a question in the chat: when are internships decisions made? I'm not sure if this is talking about internships in general or if it's talking about our Vyten internship program. So maybe clarify that down in the chat below. But if it's talking about the Vyten internship, we have had an incredible 3 groups start our fall internship right now. And if that's one of you, hit that heart button, because like, this group has been absolutely incredible. Like, the drive from the group has been awesome. The energy from the group has been awesome. And quite frankly, the feedback from the group has been really awesome, as we've rolled out some changes already to our Vyten product, our Vyten website, our Vyten services for our members, as a result of feedback from our interns already. In fact, one of those big pieces of feedback that we got from the interns that started 3 weeks ago fundamentally is resulting in a complete overhaul of our community that we're launching this week. And those interns actually got to beta test this new community and get into the community before we've even launched it to all of our members. And so internship decisions for us, we make them week by week. Unfortunately, we can't take everybody. I wish we could, but applications are open, and it's a rolling application process. And so you can apply at vyten.com/intern. So it's Vyten.com/intern if you're interested in doing our internship. It's a rotational program. It's 6 weeks long. It focuses on marketing, on sales, on PR, public relations, focuses on project management, focuses on data and analytics. And there's some technical training involved in it as well. I know some people get super scared when you say technical training, but it's not like super crazy stuff. But it is super helpful to know this type of stuff. So if you have more questions, I see we have 2 questions down below on if you hit that question button. So type your question there, and that's the best place to put questions in. But let's crank out some more of these questions. For somebody who wants to land a consulting internship in their 3rd year of undergrad, how do you gain enough experience before you apply? And we touched on that a little bit, but the first thing is the consulting, the management consulting, the accounting internships, the investment banking internships. These are the most competitive internships that are out there. And so it's never too early to start building relationships with the recruiters at those companies. In
Those are,
fact,
oh, sorry.
in fact, recently we had an associate director of recruiting from Ernst and Young, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms, and quite possibly, I would say, Ernst and Young, KPMG, Deloitte, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Like those 4 internships are like the A-list internships to have. And the recruiter from Ernst and Young literally talks about, your freshman, sophomore year, don't be afraid to start reaching out and to start following those folks on LinkedIn, to start commenting on their LinkedIn posts. Then when it comes time to actually apply, you already have a relationship and it won't be the first time that you've actually talked to that person. The other thing that you should and can do as well is participate in internship programs prior to that as well. And the Vyten internship program is a perfect example of that. We have folks right now in our first group. Carson, do you remember how many people were in the class of 2024? I was like super impressed by the number of people that we had in class of 2024 that were applying.
A third of our interns are currently freshmen in college. So
Yeah, and that's incredible. But that's what I'm talking about,
yeah.
is that you can do our internship program, crank that out your freshman, your sophomore year, and then by your 3rd year, you'll have a super competitive resume, a super competitive LinkedIn profile to be able to grab one of those A-list internship programs.
Especially since the programs that you apply for usually around a year in advance. And so with that, that means you need to get active early if you want to go into consulting or investment. So this is a perfect way to start.
Yeah, totally. If you've just joined us, this is our weekly career huddle. We do this every week. We're talking about how to launch careers, how to get an incredible job after college. We're doing an AMA today, which is an Ask Me Anything. So down below, there's a little chat bubble with a question mark. If you have a question, any question about anything that you want to ask, careers related or not careers related, that's fine. Throw it in that question button down below, and we're working our way through the questions. So the next one is, what are your tips on writing cover letters? That's a great question. So one of the members of our community actually recently asked me this, and I actually posted the actual cover letter that got me my last job. But the big things that I would say in a cover letter are, number 1, keep them brief. And when I say keep them brief, I'm not even talking about like under 1 page. I'm talking about like under half of 1 page. Because if it's too long, it's just bulky, and folks typically skim through cover letters. Second one, absolutely use bullet points. And so my perfect format for my perfect cover letter, I think we even have it in our job search template kit. For anybody who's a Vyten Plus member, we have a job search template kit where we literally have 27 pages of templates that includes everything, every single email, communication, text message, LinkedIn connection request message that you might need is all in our job search template kit. So if you're a Vyten Pro member, that's included. So go to your downloads section and you can download the job search template kit. If you're not a Vyten Pro member, it's available still on our website. But the perfect cover letter has 1 or 2 sentences in the first paragraph, 1 or 2 sentences in the second paragraph, then 3 bullet points. 3 bullet points that outline your key accomplishments and deliverables. And then your last sentence in your cover letter is just wrapping it up and including your contact information. You can use any sign off that you want, sincerely, best regards. That doesn't matter as much Then you got to put your name, and below your name, it needs to be your email address and your phone number. And that's the perfect cover letter. And you'll notice there, two sentences, 3 bullet points, one more sentence down below. That's about half a page of content, which means that you can actually, I'm trying to remember, like in school, you learn like how to write the proper business letter, and it's supposed to start like 2.5 inches down. Somebody can Google that and fact check me. But this way, you can actually do 2.5 inches down on the paper and not be like a size 5 font.
Yeah.
So you should be able to do a standard size 12 font and have a half a page and not too much more than that. So
Yeah,
that's the
a
tips
lot
on cover
of
letters.
that we notice, like especially I noticed when reading other people's cover letters, is that it often is so packed with information that's also on the resume. So that definitely is how you can kind of cut down on the content of it and get that to like a half page.
Yeah, a lot of folks that have joined us. Lucas, how's it going? Stacy, good to have you here. Jay Hong, good to have you here. You're scrolling down. Happy Hannah, what an awesome Instagram name, Happy Hannah. Um, Dizzy Princess, Kate, hello. Shane, good to have you here. Jabber says, I'm in the sales rotation program right now, and selling yesterday and today is very challenging. Yeah, sales is not for everybody, but the people who are in sales absolutely love it. And it is definitely a high adrenaline, high excitement job role. And the other thing about sales that not a lot of people know, or at least I didn't know in college, is it's one of the most lucrative careers that you can
Yeah.
do. I know somebody. I know somebody who she sells for IBM now, and she's just absolutely crushing it. And a lot of the top salespeople who are selling in B2B SaaS, so B2B means business to business, SaaS means software as a service. So basically what that means is if you're selling software to other businesses, that's B2B SaaS. I know people who make upwards of $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And 100,000 of that is their base salary, and they make like 400,000 in commission if they just absolutely crush it. Which is absolutely just like
Yeah.
mind blowing. But
Like smaller scale level before you get to that point in sales, it's also such a good skill to have going into any career. It's like being able to talk to other people and be interactive. I think that is a skill that even if you don't want to go into sales, having that experience and applying it into whatever field you are going into is so important.
yeah, that's so true. The skills that make somebody successful in sales also could make them successful in an HR role. When you think about like recruiting is no different than selling other people on why they should join your company. And so regardless of what you end up doing, it's a really, really great skill. Scrolling down here. Hey, Anna, thanks for joining us. Walking with Mar, that's a pretty cool Instagram handle as well. Love sales, but it's an emotionally demanding job. Yeah, I used to be in sales. So I did a few years of stint in sales before I moved over to marketing, and I wanted to have experience being able to do both. Hey, Crazy 5322, thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us, this is our weekly career huddle. We're doing an AMA today, which is an Ask Me Anything. You can ask any question about careers, any question about college, any question about internships, any question about changing industries, any questions about being a first-time manager, any questions across anything that you want. Or it could be something outside of careers. You can ask, what's your favorite recipe that doesn't have carbs? Any questions. So Queen asks, do you have any advice for international students applying for jobs? That is a really awesome question. So for international students applying for jobs, I think it becomes really important to take a look at the jobs that you're specifically applying for. The other thing that makes a big difference is physical location where you're going to be working, as well as I just saw a comment from Kristen that I absolutely loved. I just joined Instagram to join this session. Welcome to Instagram. So if you're an international student, the jobs that you apply for definitely matter. If you need sponsorship, and what I mean by sponsorship is if you need a visa to be able to apply. A common visa, if you ever hear like H-1B program, so H-1B is basically an employer-sponsored temporary worker visa, but it's for specialty workers, which means it's for specific career paths. And part of the reason is because there's a minimum salary that's required in order to be able to qualify for a company to be able to sponsor an H-1B. So a lot of the times you see those in software engineering roles, you see it in a lot of data scientist roles, a lot of technology type roles. But the last thing that I'll say about this is with coronavirus and with the pandemic, like everything's out the window. A lot of companies that were not open to international workers, were not open to remote workers in the past, are more open to it. When you think about it, there's a lot of companies where in the past you had to be in the office, which means that if their office was in Chicago, you had to be in Chicago. But for the past, like, since March this year, most companies have been remote for professional roles, for business professionals. Most jobs have been remote. And I've been talking to hiring managers recently who have said, in fact, I talked to one person who was at a huge startup right now. I'm not going to say who, just to respect his privacy, but he said that his company probably won't go back into the office until 2022. And so when you think about that, then it doesn't matter whether you're international or not, as long as you can work in that time zone. So I absolutely know people who are in South America and they're working in roles remotely right now, and they're either just starting their day super early or starting their day super late. And, as long as it's not on the complete opposite side, although in theory, you could be a night owl and do a job from Australia. It's just kind of a different world right now. But I think that's a really great question. If you have a question, hit the question button down below. It's a little chat bubble with a question mark in it, and you can ask your question, and then we could put it up on screen just like that. So what is operations, and what skills do I need to adequately move into this career path? I have an econ degree. Yeah, that's a great question. So operations, so there's different portions of a company. And I think why this is a really great question is because this is like the type of stuff I didn't understand until a few years into my career, like what different departments were and what every single department does. So there are kind of a few different areas of a company, and I'm going to bucket them into, for now, 4 key areas. So the 4 key areas are your growth engine of your company, which is sales, which is marketing, and customer success, sometimes known as account management. And the reason why those are like the growth engine of a company is because that's what's bringing in new customers, that's what's bringing in new clients, that's what's keeping customers that they have. So your sales team is responsible for basically closing new deals and bringing on new clients. Your marketing team is responsible for attracting new people who are interested in talking to the sales team. And then your customer success team or account management is the team that's responsible for, after the sales team gets them to be a new customer, account management and client customer success, different companies call it different things. They're responsible for keeping customers happy as well as upgrading customers, meaning that if they were on like one level of a plan, you want to convince them not only to renew, but you want to convince them to go to a higher price point plan with more features. Operations is then responsible for delivering on the product. So whatever the product, whatever the service is, your operations team is responsible for delivering on that. So if it's an e-commerce business and you sell mattresses and you're shipping mattresses out to customers, that would be the team that's responsible for supply chain and making sure that you have all of the things that are necessary to manufacture. It's also the team that's responsible for the warehouse. It's the team that's responsible for, if it's fulfillment, if it's trucks that are like, or, in the case of like Uber, it's the teams that's responsible for making sure that you actually have drivers that can go pick people up. That's what the operations team is.
And they're sometimes referred to as logistics.
Yes.
You see that hand in hand.
Yeah, that's a great point. But an operations role, the backgrounds for operations is pretty varied. I would say an econ degree is a great place to get started. The one thing that I would say would be two things that would be absolutely necessary to grab a job in operations. Good with data, super organized. Good with data, super organized. And super organized could be like project management skills as well. And so that's a big part of why we set up the Vyten internship to have an entire week focused on data and analytics, and why we've built in a lot of project management into it. Because it doesn't matter whether you go into sales, whether you go into marketing, whether you go into customer success, you actually need data and organization skills to be successful in all of those. But in operations, it ends up being even more important to be able to have that type of background. And we have all of that baked into our Vyten internship program. If you're part of our internship program, if you're not, you can apply. There's a link in our Instagram bio to apply for our internship program if you're interested in joining us. Ryan, thanks for joining us. Tiri Kiana, thanks for joining us. We are doing an AMA today, which is an Ask Me Anything. So this is our weekly career huddle. If you have a question, hit that question button down below and throw your question in. Let's take the next one from, let's do this one. Little Life Notes. Now I'm like curious what is on Little Life Notes Instagram feed, because I feel like I could use some Little Life Notes. So Little Life Notes asks, what skills should you work on to include on your resume in the marketing field? Oh, that is such a good question. Such a good question. So in my last role, I was actually a CMO, or chief marketing officer, at a startup, and we hired a ton of young marketers. And I would say, number one, like 80% of the people who applied had a personal website and had a personal portfolio. And, in digital marketing now, you have to know how to do basic web things. So basic HTML, basic CSS, basic JavaScript is really, really helpful. The next one I would say is really strong with data. So that's knowing how to use Google Sheets, knowing how to use Excel. And the reason is when you're marketing, you run a lot of what are called A/B tests. So you have customers or potential customers go to a website, and two different groups might see two different things. And maybe a button is yellow on one page and it's red on another page. And you're taking a look at which group clicks the button more. And so to be able to do that, you have to be able to analyze data and customer feedback. And so those are the skills that I think are super important. We actually have a lot of the certifications built into our internship program as well. Carson, you want to talk about some of the certifications that people can get as part of that?
One other thing I kind of wanted to say about going into marketing is there are a ton of different types of marketing. So if you want to go into like marketing in general or content marketing, that's kind of where you want to build those design skills or be familiar with Adobe and Canva and things like that. And so we actually have, some of the certifications we have are Canva certifications. We have SEO on Surfrider. I think you're Surfer.
Yep.
SEO. Let's see. We have Google Analytics. We have
a HubSpot certification, inbound marketing. And then the outbound, we have inbound sales, outbound sales as well, because those are the teams that typically marketing teams are working really closely with. And so if you're...
it's not a certification, but we also have all of our interns create their own websites. And so being familiar with handling your own website, figuring out how to present yourself as a brand to any potential employer is another non-certification but very useful skill in marketing.
Yeah, totally. And I think all of that's really good. But yeah, Little Life Notes, those are basically the skills that you should include on your resume to get a job in marketing. One other thing that you can do too, if you're not quite sure what skills to include on your resume, is go out and find, call it 10 to 15 jobs that you're interested in, and then take the job description and do a Google search for word cloud and just cut and paste all of those job descriptions into the word cloud and just hit the button. And it generates a word cloud for you of the frequency of all of those words that are on those job descriptions. And whatever words are the biggest, those are going to be the ones that the recruiters are going to be looking for on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile. Hannah, thanks for joining us. Thomas, thanks for joining us. Brady, good to see you. Claire, thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us, This is our weekly career huddle. We're doing an AMA today, which is an Ask Me Anything. So down below, there's a chat bubble with a question mark. And if you hit that, you can type your question in. And we're just going through the questions. Kristen, I just saw that you put a question in there about hard versus soft skills. Hit that question button down below and throw it in there, because as the chat goes up and as more people join, I want to make sure your question doesn't get lost. Tips on interviewing, like how to be ready for one and what questions to be prepared for to answer. That's a great one. For our Vyten Plus members, we actually have this training that we do that's called Succeeding in Virtual Interviews. And it is by far the most popular training program that we have for our Vyten Plus members that everybody takes. But here's the big ones. The first one is now with virtual interviews, you have to not only, be ready for what you say on an interview, but you also have to be ready on camera as well. And so having your camera high up is actually better than having your camera down low. And you can see here, it's just not as good of a camera. The other thing is lighting. And so you can see right here, I have just like this little light that's lighting me up. And what's the worst is you don't want to have a window behind you, because do you guys see how dark I am? And this is actually not too bad, but like I know sometimes I've like jumped on a video call with people and it's like I'm talking to a dark shadow. And so the lighting and the sound really, really matters. So that's one of the first things to get ready. The question I would say you always want to be ready for is there's always a question that's something along the lines of tell me about yourself. And tell me about yourself. The biggest mistake, so I was a recruiter in the past for a Fortune 100 company. I did thousands of phone screens for different roles. And the biggest mistake that I hear people make in the tell me about yourself question is they only talk about the past. They've only talked about what they've done in the past. And the second one is like they're reading me stuff that's on their resume that like I can read. And so, it doesn't really add much. The perfect answer to the tell me about yourself question talks about a little bit about your past, but it's not talking about like your job description or your job responsibilities. It's talking about your accomplishments. It's talking about the things that you accomplished there. For instance, one of my jobs when I was in high school was I was a lifeguard. And so a job like responsibility was, I was responsible for cleaning each area around every activity and pool in the morning to make sure that it was safe. That's describing a job responsibility. But while I was a lifeguard there, I actually got audited by like this third party and they gave me an award for my lifeguarding skills. That's what I would talk about. I would talk about the key accomplishment. I wouldn't talk about the responsibility. And then you want to talk about section number 2. So tell me about yourself. Number 1, you talk about the past. Number 2, you talk a little bit about the present. So in the past, I was a lifeguard. And one of the things that was really great about that was I was actually awarded by this third-party organization that audited my focus and attention to detail, my focus and attention to keeping my skills up to date. I received this award and that put me in the top 1% of lifeguards nationwide at water parks. But right now I'm spending a lot of time really building my marketing skills. And so I got this recent certification from HubSpot. I got a recent certification from Google Analytics, and I'm really interested in always continuing to learn, which is why I'm interested in these skills. So that's number 2. You talk about what you're doing right now. Number 3, you want to talk about the future. You want to talk about where you're going next. And next, I'm really interested in working in an organization, applying my marketing skills and working at a company that's making a difference in the world. And maybe, my passion is environmental issues. So I'm really looking for a marketing job at some type of a solar company or some type of clean energy company. And that tells the employer if they are, a Tesla, if they are a company that is working in one of those areas, you can go, okay, yeah, this person is accomplished in the past. They're bettering themselves right now. And then in the future, they want to work at a company that looks like ours. And so that would be, I would say, the number 1 question that you have to prepare for. And the mistakes that I see is people are just like reading their resume out loud, only talking about the past and not talking about the present and the future.
Yeah, and it's really not the same as the walk me through a resume, which I feel like is not asked as often anymore. So just know the difference between tell me about yourself and walk me through your resume.
Yeah, totally. Gianni, thanks for joining us. Tommy, thanks for joining us. Maggie, hello. Kate, thanks for joining us. Dylan, good to see you. We're doing an Ask Me Anything. This is our weekly career huddle. We're doing an AMA. You can ask any question about careers, about college, about internships, about skills, resume, LinkedIn profile, any of that. Just press the question mark button down below. So there's a little chat bubble with a question mark, and throw your question in there, and we're working through as many questions as we possibly can. Oh, here you go. I love this one. If I find a hiring manager's email on my own, is it rude to use it to send a thank you note? No, absolutely not. You should absolutely send a thank you note after every single job interview. And it used to be, I used to say, like pre-pandemic, that you should even send those thank you notes as handwritten thank you cards. But with the pandemic, everybody's working from home. You're obviously not going to ask for somebody's home address. And so right now, I would say you do a LinkedIn connection and then you send a thank you email. If you don't have the email address for for somebody that you interviewed with, you can also ask the recruiter for their email address so you can send a thank you note. Usually the recruiter will share the email address with you. If they don't want to share the email address, A, I think that's kind of weird. But B, you could always send the thank you note to the recruiter and then they can forward it along to the hiring manager. Really, really great question, Jabber. Spencer, thanks for joining us. PI3141, good to have you here. We're doing an AMA, so it's an career Ask Me Anything. Let's see here. How do you deal with anxiety during a job search or potentially election anxiety? Carson, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So I think this is something a lot of people do face as a daily battle, and something that unfortunately is very often present in your job search because it's such a prolonged experience, and you're going through that day after day with so much uncertainty. And so I think it's good to like remain in perspective of each day you're doing something small that's bettering your future. And then we do have some workshops as well on this topic because I think it's also good to like take some time to be mindful and to set realistic expectations for yourself day by day, to go on exercise, to kind of take a break from letting your job search consume your entire life, because that's when it starts to get really overwhelming. And that's something that for me helped, just being able to like step away for a while and also effectively using your time.
The second one I would say is having a support network, like having a group around you that's there to be able to provide you support. You know, it makes a huge difference to be able to, it makes a huge difference to be able to have folks around you that can celebrate wins, small wins, big wins with you, as well as folks to be able to support you, you
And
know,
to
when you run
surround
across
yourself,
challenges.
yeah, with people who are kind of also going through the same job experience, because a lot of times it's like you can ask for advice from people who already have jobs, but realistically they aren't the people who understand what you're currently going through, especially finding a job during the pandemic. So it's good to have a network of people who kind of share those anxieties and share those experiences, and being able to talk about the highs and lows with them is super beneficial to have that support network.
Yeah, and we have that built and available to our Vyten Plus community for anybody who's a Vyten Plus member. But right now, we are soft launching or getting ready to soft launch a new community. And so temporarily, we're inviting folks in to test out our new community. So I just pinned a message down below. And if you are one of our Vyten Plus members, you can go to this site and just reset your password, and that'll let you into our new community. We're going to kind of unveil all of it at our weekly happy hour. So we have a happy hour on Friday where we're doing the official grand opening of this new community. But if you're not one of our Vyten Plus members and you want to get access, you can actually create an account right now for a limited time. So this is a private community. We usually don't let people in. It's only for our Vyten Plus members. But right now, if you want to get early access to it, be one of our beta users, you can actually go to the address in the pinned message down below and set up an account, and that account will work forever. And you'll be able to get into the community for free. But usually this is something this is usually something that is only open to our Vyten Plus members. I just saw Paige join, who's like one of our OG interns. Hey, Paige.
Yeah, we had Paige and Tommy here.
So Paige has been like crushing it on her pandemic workouts. So I see her Instagram stories every single day, and I feel like I need to like go out there and do more deadlifts. All right. Sam, thanks for joining us. So I think we're getting ready to wrap up this career huddle. So if you've just joined us, maybe we'll take one more question. And if you have a question that you're dying to get an answer to, hit that chat bubble down below where you see the chat bubble and the question mark, and just put your question in there. And Carson, you want to pick out a question? I'm going to update our link tree, so the link on our Instagram bio, as well, with a link to our community. So as soon as this ends, you can head over to our Instagram bio, and I'll put a link at the top of our link tree to set up a free account on our new community.
I'm not sure if I have access to see the question submitted. I think that might just be you, but we can go back to Kristen's question about soft skills versus hard skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, do you want to talk about it, or do you want to?
Oh, sorry, I was updating our link tree. So soft skills versus hard skills, I think that varies by job type. When you take a look at roles like sales, for instance, soft skills end up being super, super important, because to be able to fundamentally sell well, you have to be able to relate and connect with other people. For more technical roles, I would say hard skills end up being more important. So for instance, for software engineers, there's kind of a stereotype that software engineers are all introverts that sit at their desk and wear headphones, listen to music, and just crank out crazy, awesome lines of code. But the reason is because in software engineering or data and analytics, those hard skills end up being really important, which end up being like those technical skills or those functional skills. And then there's jobs that are like in between. The jobs that are in between would be, I would say, things like operations require a mixture of both soft skills and hard skills. HR would be the same thing. Finance, hard skills end up being really important just because you're working with, large numbers.
Yeah. And then while you update the link tree, I can talk a little bit more about soft skills that kind of apply to all positions. So anytime you're working with a client that's in any capacity, so whether you're a CPA or you're in PR marketing, you really need to have those personable skills. So you need to be able to do that public speaking, to do outreach, to be able to carry on conversations, present yourself well, present your company well, and things like that, because I feel like that is the most effective skills at the end of the day, are the things that like remind us all how human we are, and especially bringing light of that in the time of COVID. But another example of this is one of our current interns and Vyten Plus members, Jabber. We've been talking about how he can apply his personal skills. So he was in a more technical role and was like, I love being an extrovert, being around people. I'm sorry. And so sorry, my dog. And talking to them. And so that's kind of one thing that we're working on is, okay, how can you apply those skills to a field that usually focuses on hard skills?
Yeah, that's a great call out there. So I just updated our link tree. That's the link in our bio. And there's a few things in there. We have this new community for our Vyten Plus members temporarily for a limited amount of time. Normally, this is like an invite-only community. If you want to beta test this community, you can go there and you can create an account. That'll only be up today. And so if you want to get in, your access to the community will be good forever, but you have to create an account today if you want to be able to get into the community. Second thing, our Vyten internship. A lot of you are asking about how to build specific skills, and doing internships is one of them. So I put a link to our internship program on there. And then the last two are a link to our podcast, where we've had Tesla on the podcast, we've had Adobe on the podcast, we've had Ernst & Young on the podcast. Like we've had a lot of incredible leaders and recruiters from some really great companies on the podcast. So definitely check it out. And my phone number's in there as well. So you can shoot me a text in there as well.
And then
Um,
before we finish, for all of our interns watching this, whether it be the replay of it or live, the keyword for this week is pink.
Awesome. Definitely didn't want to miss that. And I'm glad you reminded me. I just saw this question, though, that came in that we just have to take this question before we wrap up today, which is how can you successfully work in a marketing and sales position if you're introverted or an INTJ person? So INTJ, I'm going to do a quick Google search there, is an architect. That's actually a really awesome personality. So INTJ is introverted, intuitive thinking, and judging. And these tacticians love perfecting the details of life, applying creativity and rationality to everything that they do. And their inner world is often a private and complex one. When you're introverted, it's not talking about whether you have the ability to be able to talk to other people. It's not talking about whether you have the ability to interact with other people. It's just talking about what you get energy out of. And different people get energy out of different things. So down in the chat below, Chris says, that's me. Down in the chat below, type in yes or no, whether you think that I am extroverted. So many of you have been following me for quite some time, maybe for a long time. Many of you have, maybe you just joined today, but take a guess, yes or no, down in the comments below if you think I'm an extrovert. Because, you know, like every single week I'm doing these sessions just like this. So Jose says no, that you don't think I'm extroverted. So I'm curious for any other guesses. Monica the chemist says mix of
This is
potentially
your
introverted.
favorite question to ask people.
Yeah, it's totally my favorite question. A lot of people guessing no, and that means you think I'm an introvert. And if you guess that I'm an introvert, then you'd be right. And so I absolutely am an introvert. You know, I get really terrified of like being in a room with 100 people that I don't know. I am way more comfortable in a small group where I know everybody than a big room where I don't know anybody. And so, you know, the question was, how do you work in a career of sales and marketing? And I've spent my entire career in sales and marketing as an introvert. And sometimes I like joke around that I'm a closet introvert. But, you know, the reality of it is, extroverts get rewarded in the business world, and extroverts are like perceived as the personality type that would be more successful in business. And it just isn't true. Introverts can do just as well. And you just need to know, you know, when to kind of flip into the mode where you talk to other people. And, you know, after an hour of it, you might be exhausted, and that's okay. And it might not be the thing that you enjoy the most, and that's okay. But you know, in life, there's things that you're going to enjoy, and there's going to be things that you don't enjoy as much, and that's okay. And so, if you are an introvert, don't let that stop you from going into a career in sales and marketing. You absolutely still can, and you absolutely still can knock it out of the park. All right, it's good to see everybody. We're going to end this session. If you're one of our interns, the secret passcode of the week is pink. And if you want early access into our new Vyten community that we're launching this week to our Vyten Plus members, hit the link in our bio, in our Instagram bio. Even if you're not a Vyten Plus member, you're able to sneak in today through that secret link, and you'll be able to set up an account even if you're not a member. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you this
Bye.
same time, same place next week.